And so now you should all be able to see my pad, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to create a class. And it's going to have two methods. One returns an int, and it's called do something. And its parameter is an int. And there's some code in there. And I'm going to create another method. And it also returns an int. And it's called do something. And it takes a string. And now in a completely separate class, I have some code that says x, and I'm going to give this a name. Oh boy, my variable names are too short. But what I'm going to do here, never mind all the formalities, I'm going to say do something 7, and I'm also going to say later on do something hello. And now there are two methods up here named do something.
Oh, okay.
How does the compiler know, or how does Java, whatever virtual machine is running, that's Java specific one or the Android one, how does it know which do something to call? And the answer is this one takes an int and this one takes a string.
They're passing in, yeah. Okay.
And you can play similar games with multiple parameters. So I may have this one take parameter int comma string, two different parameters, one's an int and the other's a string. And this one may take 3 parameters, a Boolean, an array of strings, and a cache register. And then down here, it's up to Java to figure out which of those do somethings I'm calling based on the kinds of method of variables that I'm passing.
So you can, okay, so you can have the same name and type of method as long as it has unique, what do you call it, parameters that you're passing in.
This whole thing with the method name and the types of parameters, types and numbers of parameters, is called the method signature.
So it has to have a unique method signature.
Exactly.
And, okay, the parameters make it unique.
Right.
Okay. And so I guess why would you want to do this rather than just naming the methods differently? Is it just a way of making things more readable?
Well, yeah. Another important trick is, so first of all, if these two do somethings conceptually have a lot in common, this does it with an int and this does it with a string, then that's certainly a reason for giving them the same name.
Okay.
Another thing that's actually really popular in a lot of SDKs, and that's the following. Let's say that I want to create a new dialog box.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say new box. And now that means I have a constructor somewhere. So I have a thing that's like a method that takes parameters.
Mm-hmm.
And what am I going to say about my box? Well, I'm going to say what its height is, what its width is, what its title is, what its background color is, how many buttons does it have. I'm just going to go on and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is conceivably reason to have a call here that has 100 different parameters,
mm-hmm.
which would be cumbersome if most of them were things that you would want to do automatically by default anyway. So the SDK will provide many different overloaded versions of this box constructor.
Okay.
And for example, one of them might just be new box, where all you supply is a height and a width.
Okay.
And then the rest are left by default. Or you might be able to
I've seen that. Okay, now I'm
try a new box. Just give me a box. I don't care how high it is or how wide it is. Just give me one real quick.
So when we're doing a method and then you do like control enter and you get all the suggestions, or you hold down alt or whatever, you see like the same method but then different parameter types. Like that's kind of what you're talking about. That's method overloading.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, I can handle one more question, I guess, and then I've got a buzz for some other things today.
Okay, does anyone else have a question? I can ask another one if not. Okay, so back to inheritance, and I think you and I talked about this a little bit, implementing interfaces. So if I remember correctly, like an interface just basically allows you to put rules in place for when you create an instance of that class. You're saying this must have a this sort of method, and a method called this and a property called this.
Close enough. Okay.
Is that right?
I wouldn't phrase it exactly that way, but is the question are you leading to a question, or did you?
I'm trying to make sure, I guess, I understand correctly, and then maybe you could fill in the blanks, because that's kind of what I understand.
Let me try something here, okay? So I'm gonna go to another page. So again, I'm gonna have a class named X. And the class named X has a method, doesn't return anything, it's void, and it's called do something. And it has some code in it. That's what happens when you call do something.
Okay.
And that's just, so now I'm going to have another class called Y. And Y extends X. And now, by virtue of what I've done so far, Y automatically has a do something method. Inheritance. It inherited.
Yep.
That's class. Now then, I'm going to say interface and call it F. And in the interface declaration, I'm going to say void my method semicolon. And what that means is if you implement me, you have to have a my method, and I'm not telling you what its body must contain. That's up to you. But you have to have a method with this signature. So it has to be called my method. It has to take no parameters. And there's a little detail about how public or private it has to be, but let's not worry about that.
Okay.
So now, then, if I somewhere say class, and I'll call it Z, and again, I've written my brace too soon, implements F. Try to squeeze it all in here.
Yep.
Then, if this is all that I have, the compiler will say, hold on a sec, you promised, I'm going to try to raise this. Hold on a sec, you promised to implement F, but you didn't tell me what the body of my method is. You are not going to compile.
Okay.
So what I must do here in order to get the program to compile is to fulfill the terms of the contract that I just signed by saying that I would implement F.
Okay, this sounds familiar.
And the simplest way to do that, there are a couple of a couple of loopholes as usual, but the most straightforward way to do that is to say void my method, same signature, so no parameters, and then give a body to the method. And for icing on the cake, you're allowed to say @override here. Although you're not really overriding anything, you're actually just saying, I want the compiler to check to make sure that I am indeed fulfilling some sort of a promise.
So it's a best practice to add override.
Yeah, the reason you want to add override there is because if you misspelled this, for instance, then the compiler will catch that by virtue of the add. The compiler will probably catch it anyway. Because,
I see what you're saying. Okay.
But the idea here is implementing an interface is signing a contract.
Yes.
On the other hand, extending a class, that's getting some things for free.
Okay. I think I remember reading this analogy now.
Right.
Makes sense. And then last question, this one's a quick one. The packages. So when we typically create, like for the purpose of this class, when we create one app, we're probably going to use the same package, right, for everything?
So
typically,
when you create an app, so it's a little bit different between there's one meaning for package in Java, and there's sort of an extra meaning for package in Android. A package in Java is a collection of classes.
Oh,
okay. A collection of stuff, but usually classes. And of course, they're all related. They're all serving some purpose. That's what a package is in Java. When you create an Android app, it is connected with a particular package. So your main activity is going to be in that package. Your app has to have a package that it's in. Your app can use other packages, but there has to be a package that's identified with your particular app.
Okay, I didn't realize there was that distinction.
It's not quite a distinction. It's just extra stuff that Android adds. A package is still, even in Android, a collection of classes.
Gotcha.
Or a collection of definitions, I should be.
That makes sense. Okay.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right, I'm going to go back to stop share here. And that's it. Anything that we left out that I have to say before we end the session? No? Okay, great. Well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. It's been an enjoyable afternoon, morning, wherever it is you are. And if you have any other questions or suggestions or anything, then you can direct message me on the Slack channel or post them somewhere on the spreadsheet that I announced in the beginning of the session, or send me email if you got my email address or anything. Carrier pigeon, whatever. I accept incoming messages from anywhere. And so, great. And enjoy coding and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Thank you.